Awareness is the first battle because nothing in our lives can be transformed if we are unwilling to admit that change is needed, and too often we live in denial, masking our struggles behind excuses, distractions, or temporary comforts that make us feel safe but keep us stagnant. The hardest truth to face is the one that points directly at us, because it is easier to blame circumstances, people, or timing than to confront the reality that our own choices, habits, and mindset may be holding us back. Yet the moment we decide to be honest with ourselves, something shifts, because acknowledgement brings light to the shadows we've been avoiding. Awareness does not require immediate perfection, it only demands courage. The courage to look at where we are, to call out what is not working, and to admit the ways we have been settling for less than we are capable of. Many people spend years trapped in cycles of procrastination or fear, not because they lack ability, but because they refuse to acknowledge that laziness, fear of failure, or lack of discipline are running the show. True awareness is uncomfortable because it forces us to remove the masks we wear and to stand face with the reality that if we want change, no one else can do it for us. But in that discomfort lies the seed of growth, because once we name what is holding us back, we take away its power to control us in silence. Awareness sharpens our vision and gives us clarity. It reveals not only the obstacles, but also the patterns, the triggers, and the stories we keep telling ourselves. With that clarity, we can no longer pretend we don't know better, and that knowledge becomes responsibility. While it might feel heavy at first, it is in truth liberating, because it shows us that the key has always been in our hands. Every breakthrough begins with awareness, because awareness allows us to pause, to reflect, and to choose differently instead of running on autopilot. It is the battle before all other battles, the inner fight that determines whether we keep hiding from ourselves or whether we step forward with honesty and courage. And when we choose to fight that battle and win it, when we choose to face ourselves without excuses, we unlock the possibility of real transformation. Discomfort is the doorway to growth, because every meaningful transformation requires us to walk through the unease of effort, and yet laziness often disguises itself as a protective shield against that discomfort, whispering to us that rest, delay, or avoidance is safer than trying. The truth is, most of the time when we claim to be lazy, what we are really doing is hiding from the fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown. And so we choose the easier path of doing nothing rather than facing the temporary strain of effort. But growth never happens in stillness or comfort. It is born in the tension between where we are and where we want to be, and that tension will always feel uncomfortable. Laziness thrives on convincing us that discomfort is a sign we should stop, when in reality it is the very evidence that we are stretching into something greater. Consider the first time you try to lift a weight, learn a skill, or attempt a challenge. Your body and mind resisted. It felt heavy, awkward, uncertain, and yet that strain was not a signal to quit. It was the beginning of growth. If we always choose ease, we remain stuck in the same patterns, living under the illusion that we are protecting ourselves, when in fact we are limiting ourselves. Discomfort is not our enemy, it is our compass, pointing us toward the places where our courage, resilience, and discipline are waiting to be built. Laziness masks itself as comfort, but beneath that mask lies fear, and the only way to dismantle it is to step forward despite the unease, proving to ourselves that effort does not destroy us but strengthens us. Each time we choose to lean into discomfort instead of retreating from it, we create a new habit of resilience, and resilience is the foundation of success. The doorway is narrow, and it often feels heavy to push open, but once we step through it, we see that what felt impossible was only resistance testing our will. Growth is never painless, but it is always worth the discomfort it demands, and when we stop allowing laziness to use fear as its disguise, we begin to understand that the uneasy moments are not obstacles, but invitations to become who we are meant to be. Small steps beat grand intentions because real progress is not made in the vast promises we whisper to ourselves about tomorrow, but in the small, imperfect actions we take today that stack upon one another until they create momentum strong enough to carry us forward. Too often we get caught in the illusion that we need the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or a surge of motivation to begin, so we dream big, set lofty goals, and wait for the right conditions, but nothing changes because intentions without action are just comfortable fantasies. The truth is, momentum is not born from thought. It is born from movement, even if that movement feels insignificant in the moment. One page written, 1 mile walked, one difficult conversation started, one habit repeated. These small steps don't seem like much in isolation, yet they compound over time to create transformation. Grand intentions, on the other hand, often overwhelm us, because the gap between where we are and where we want to be feels too wide, and so we delay, procrastinate, or abandon the dream entirely. Small steps shrink that gap, making progress tangible and achievable, and each step creates the confidence to take the next. Action feeds itself, and what begins as a single push forward gathers speed, turning resistance into rhythm. When we commit to showing up daily in small ways, we silence the voice that tells us it's too hard or too far away, because the proof of our effort is right in front of us. It is in these small, steady movements that resilience is built, discipline is strengthened, and character is formed. Daydreams may inspire us, but without action, they wither into regret, while even the smallest act of courage creates a spark that can ignite lasting change. The power lies not in waiting for the perfect grand gesture, but in trusting that consistent small steps will carry us further than we ever imagine. Accountability creates consistency because without a sense of responsibility to ourselves, even the strongest intentions fade into empty promises, and discipline cannot survive where excuses thrive. The truth is, discipline is not something we wake up with fully formed. It is a muscle that grows only when we continually test it, and accountability is the weight that strengthens it. When we decide to hold ourselves responsible for our choices, our actions, and even our failures, we take away the safety net of blaming circumstances or waiting for external motivation, and instead we stand in the power of ownership. Consistency is not built on occasional bursts of effort, but on the daily commitment to show up, especially on the days when it is inconvenient, when energy is low, or when no one is watching. Accountability forces us to confront the gap between what we said we would do and what we actually did, and in that confrontation, we either make excuses or we rise to the challenge of honoring our word. Discipline deepens when we choose the latter, because every moment of honesty with ourselves chips away at the habit of avoidance and strengthens the habit of action. When we set a standard and hold ourselves to it, we create trust with ourselves, and that trust is the foundation of consistency. Without accountability, our goals remain optional, and optional goals are the ones we abandon at the first sign of difficulty. But when we make them non-negotiable through responsibility, we transform them from wishes into commitments. Accountability also builds resilience because it teaches us that even when we stumble, we cannot hide from the truth of our choices. We must get up, correct our course, and continue forward. Each time we do this, we reinforce discipline as a way of life, not just a temporary burst of willpower. Responsibility may feel heavy at first, but it is in carrying that weight consistently that we become strong enough to achieve what once felt impossible. Ultimately, accountability is not a burden but a gift, because it removes the illusions that keep us stuck and anchors us to the actions that lead to growth. Purpose fuels persistence because when the reason behind our actions is deeply rooted in something meaningful, the obstacles that once seemed overwhelming begin to shrink, and the excuses that once held power lose their grip on us. Many people struggle with consistency not because they lack ability, but because they lack clarity on why they are pursuing a goal, and without that why, effort feels like a burden rather than a necessity. Purpose transforms the grind of discipline into a pathway of meaning, giving us the strength to endure setbacks and the courage to keep moving forward even when the journey is exhausting. When you know why you are waking up early, why you are pushing through discomfort, why you are saying no to distractions, the sacrifices stop feeling like losses and start feeling like investments. Excuses thrive in the absence of purpose, because without a clear reason, the mind will always find an easier way out, convincing you that the struggle isn't worth it. But when your actions are tied to something bigger than convenience, when they are connected to your values, your dreams, or the people you love, the temptation to quit becomes weaker. Purpose gives direction to effort, and direction turns scattered attempts into steady persistence. It becomes the compass that keeps you moving when motivation fades, because motivation is temporary but meaning endures. Every obstacle becomes less of a dead end and more of a test, a chance to prove how much the goal matters to you. Purpose is the fire that keeps you walking through the storm, reminding you that the discomfort is temporary but the outcome is lasting. With a strong why, every small step carries weight. Every sacrifice gains significance, and every challenge becomes an opportunity to demonstrate commitment. Purpose doesn't eliminate the difficulty, but it gives the difficulty a reason. And that reason is what allows persistence to take root and grow stronger with every step. Discipline is freedom because it is the choice to take control of your actions instead of being controlled by impulses. And though in the moment it may feel like restriction, it is in fact the key that unlocks a life without regret, a life where possibility outweighs limitation. When we choose ease, we are choosing the temporary comfort that often leads to long-term disappointment. But when we choose discipline, we are choosing to invest in a future where our efforts create opportunities that laziness could never provide. Discipline is the quiet decision to get up when it would be easier to stay down, to practice when no one is watching, to commit when giving up seems tempting, and in those decisions lies the real definition of freedom, the ability to design the life we want rather than settling for whatever life hands us. Many people mistake freedom for doing whatever they feel like in the moment. Yet that kind of freedom quickly becomes a prison, because acting without discipline leads to missed opportunities, broken promises, and the slow erosion of self-trust. True freedom comes when you can rely on yourself, when your word to yourself is stronger than your excuses, and that is born only through discipline. Each time you choose action over ease, you carve out space for growth, you create momentum, and you build a foundation that allows you to reach places comfort could never take you. Discipline creates consistency, and consistency compounds into mastery, and mastery opens doors that once seemed unreachable. The effort is hard, the repetition is tiring, but the reward is a life lived with purpose rather than regret. Without discipline, dreams remain dreams, but with it, they become achievements. Discipline is the bridge between vision and reality, and while walking across it may demand sacrifice, the other side holds the very freedom we crave, to live without wondering what could have been, to stand proud in the knowledge that we chose persistence over avoidance, and to carry the quiet power of a life we built intentionally, one disciplined choice at a time.